What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi here. Sheets is going to be available for the later show, so I'm going to go through both slates for the morning and the afternoon. It's been a hectic day. We got a lot of football going on, a lot of site stuff that we're improving. So it's a really busy day, just away from DFS alone. Away from my playing DFS. So I'm actually not able to play this morning because I'm just going to have too many things, and I didn't even have time to put together lineups before all the good tournaments sold out. AJ coming in trying to troll me. How about them Dodgers, the team that's been the best team in baseball and hasn't been healthy and are starting to get healthy and are consistently the best team in baseball. If they lose 10-1 one night, it happens to every team. Ask the Yankees. And we early morning trolling. Not gonna bite too much on that one. All right, so let's talk about this real quick. We're gonna go through each of the morning games. I'm just gonna talk about what I like. I think Lopez makes the most sense as a starting pitcher of anybody for me, and I think Bradley makes some sense. I also don't mind a low-owned Minnesota stack. I would take some shots against Bradley here, just because we don't have a whole lot of ways to get different. I don't think you need to worry about necessarily fully stacking. In fact, we'll do a quick build at the end of this and go through that, and before we talk about the evening slate. But I kind of like some of the Minnesota bats here, and I think you could play like Larnach at 3K, super cheap. Julien's got some power, even though, look, there's definitely pinch hit risk. But I do think taking some shots with these guys is a good way to go on a slate where you're not getting much ownership there, because people are going to play this game. Less so on the Cincinnati side, more so on the Houston side. I think that playing Cincinnati was an initial idea I thought would be a little bit off the board. Now that I'm looking at it, it's not as much off the board, but I think it's a really good option. And you have cheap options. It's not like the best lineup in the world today, and Hunter Brown should be considered. I actually like the Brown pairing with Lopez, but it makes me a little nervous. And I think where you're not playing Brown, I think playing Cincinnati is completely viable. Houston, again, you're going to have to pick and choose, because as a 5-man stack, I just think you're running into too much chalk. So I'm going to just look at the ownership here. If we just go through the whole slate, you're going to see it's going to be Houston, and pretty heavily, like by such a large amount. So if you want to pick a few bats, you've got cheap options. That's partly why they're going to be so popular. They're also playing in Cincinnati. It's one of the biggest park upgrades in baseball for any team, especially Houston, which is, not nearly the hitter's park Cincinnati is. We'll put it that way. I'm on this page of let's maybe not go overboard on Houston and just try to maybe use a piece or two. Alvarez would be my favorite piece. My next favorite piece would be Pena, Altuve, Bregman. That's the grouping I'd look at. But if you want a cheap option, Singleton is the guy I think I would go to. Again, trying not to play that game at all costs. We get a hotter game in Oakland, which we rarely get. So I want to always point out that the stadium plays very different when the weather's like this. I still really like Brian Wu here. I think I'm huge on Wu in the future. I think this guy's going to be freaking awesome. If I had one build, I mentioned that Brown I thought was an interesting play because there's a little bit lower ownership than you usually get. But I am going to play some Brian Wu. It would be Brian Wu and Lopez, I think, for me. Pretty safe to say. At least that's what I have as of right now. We could get into the next game in a minute. Seattle's the next most popular team. Again, I would personally probably just avoid 5-mans, but be happy to play smaller stacks. And where I'm not playing Brian Wu, I am totally cool with the idea of playing a Lawrence Butler as a one-off. We know how good he can be as a one-off. The guy's at 3 home runs in 2 different games this season, steals bases, does everything we want. So I think it's interesting to do that. I also think that there's a chance, depending on when lineups come in, that you might get slightly lower ownership than the projections, just because people tend to want to play the games where they have the lineups out in time more than they do the ones that are still not in yet, which is obviously pretty logical. All right, so we've got Snell and Merrill Kelly. Snell is, again, probably the cash game thing. I said I like Wu and Lopez. Let's just save a little bit of money. It's really not that hard to get up to Snell. Nobody has a higher ceiling than Snell. Now, I would say that Arizona is tough. This is not a team I like taking pitchers against, and they score 1 million runs. As I keep pointing out, they lead the league in scoring. And I have no interest in Merrill Kelly here. I have interest in San Francisco. So the teams I would be using, I like the low-owned Minnesota. I like the low-owned San Francisco. And then I would be piecing it together with pieces of Seattle and Houston. That's sort of my outlook for the slate. We're going to run a quick SaberSim build just for the lottery and see what they come up with. Okay, I totally understand, AJ. That's fine. Yeah, the highest owned stacks are not going to score the most. hardly ever in baseball when you have monster slates, and the Dodgers did not get there. So you can see they turned the correlation down. This is something I always want to point out. They turned the correlation down to 6 instead of 10 because of the 4-gamer. So just keep in mind to keep that in mind. We're going to go to this, that we're going to do a contest sim instead of doing that thing. And we are going to go to, what is the early lottery today? I'm not playing it. So this is the smaller early lottery, the 2K. Where is the other one? I guess it's only a 10K for first. Yikes. I thought there was better options here for this morning. All right. So we're going to just build. We're going to just change a couple things. Let's do this. We're going to change this to 7 and this to 7 and see what SaberSim wants us to do. And I'm going to remind everybody how I like to use this. And we'll get there. I like it. AJ saying the Arizona San Francisco hitters are going to be half asleep today. I don't think so. I'm telling you, I'm always intrigued because they don't get it's always still treated as a bad hitter's park. Now, San Francisco is a little different. That's crazy because they're right by each other, obviously, but it's 69 degrees in San Francisco and 81 in Oakland. And almost no wind in San Francisco, which is you just don't see that very often. So let's just see what SaberSim does, and then we'll jump into the night slate. Again, we'll be live this evening for the first Showdown slate. We're going to do Showdown, and we're going to do MLB later on. So we'll go back to back. We'll go to MLB, then we'll jump over to the Showdown slate. Here we go. Sorry about this, guys. Takes a minute sometimes. I'm not even going to run a build because we have time later to do it for the other slate. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So any guesses on team stacks? Arizona, they love. I'm totally with this idea. Again, we're gonna run the sim and sort by RA, ROI and all that stuff. But I love the Arizona idea myself. Everybody knows forever that I've always attacked Merrill Kelly maybe more than anybody more than anybody who's a good pitcher in baseball. He's a good pitcher who can get lit up. Hey, look, the Dodgers had 3 home runs to lead off the game, and they played him the other night. Look, it is what it is. So let's run this over. Run this in. All right, let's do the flagship. Let's do flagship MME, ROI. Okay, let's see a change. Still going to get a lot of Arizona though. I like this. I like what it's given us here. I'm not as high on the Oakland side of it myself, but I like what it's given us. Let's see what happens if we go to min uniques. And I'm curious what we'll get for pitching in a second. Let's do 2 min uniques, pitchers. They spread it out a little more than I thought. Lopez, Snell, Estes. I don't know how I feel about the Estes thing this morning myself. I don't think you need to go there. It is Seattle, so it can't ever be wrong for a 6K pitcher against Seattle. But I just think there's other higher upside options that I would rather go with. And let's see what we get with the min uniques. I didn't do the aggregate metric thing. I'll do that, when we do the live show later. You get more Lopez and team stacks. We are still getting a bunch of this. So let's just say we took Oakland and capped it at 15. Actually, let's see what type of stack exposure we have first before we apply that. 5-2, 5-3, 4-3, 3-3-2. So you're getting some different builds, and I like that today. I actually would be okay with going like at least half my lineups, not 5x whatever. You know what I mean? So I like that a little bit today, and I think these small slates are interesting ways to get different. I like the Arizona as a contrarian thing. I think I don't think you necessarily have to be that contrarian, especially in small single entry and smaller field tournaments. But I do think it makes quite a bit of sense to do in large field tournaments to go against Snell when people are just not going to do that. So let's just say we cap Seattle at 20. Let's say we cap these guys at 15. Because I'd like to get to some San Francisco. I'd honestly like to get to a little bit more Minnesota. And there it goes. There you have it. This feels like a way you can give yourself a chance in the lottery. I'm good with this personally. And I'm good with, we have down to 26% Snell. I like being underweight on these types of slates for Snell. We know he's a high, so he's such the obvious play. This projected ownership for him, I think, is going to end up closer to 60% against, one of the best, if not the best offense in some ways in baseball. I just think there's other ways to go. So that's my take on the early slate. I'm going to jump into the evening slate and just do a first look for that. It's not a huge, exciting slate. Obviously, football starting, it's going to keep the tournament smaller. I probably don't get to baseball today. I've just got so much site work I've got to do, and I've got a bunch of building and football and things I have to do, and I really want to take time because I feel like it's hurt me recently as the site's sort of grown and we've gotten bigger. it's definitely hurt my play. I've not been the same because I'm working on a million other things. So I'm trying to get some other stuff going. I like it, AJ. Good for you. Stacking Minnesota. Okay, quickly, we're going to go through this. Not going to do a build, but we are going to go through the slate. Okay. Irvin and Falter in Pittsburgh. I haven't checked all the weather. I actually did check it earlier, but it was way earlier, so it might not even have been updated. Yeah, a little bit of wind blowing in from left. Nothing too heavy here. I think that Falter is an interesting contrarian play, but I don't love it. I understand some people like Irvin. I don't love it. Honestly, this is probably the least interesting game on the slate to me. It will be to a lot of other people. So I'm okay with whatever you do. It's a 5-game slate, but nothing that stands out here as a glaring. Maybe Pittsburgh stack. They did travel yesterday and they're back to playing. Maybe a Pittsburgh stack you could talk me into, but at first look, it's not a priority for me. We have Philadelphia and Miami, Suarez and Aller. Okay, I'm going to just point something out here about this Aller. He's looked terrific his last couple times out. Now, I'm not going to say we can count on that again, but just throwing it out there, he sure got 8 of the 21 batters he faced. That's pretty crazy. And Philadelphia's been striking out against righties. If you want to get super, like if I was doing this and I was playing a 5-gamer and scripting out everything, I would go heavy on something like this. Just take a shot. Take a shot. Look at his K prop. It's going to be way lower than it should be. K expected rate, 4.09. I like whatever the over-under is on his strikeouts. And at the same time, I think he could get completely rocked and Philadelphia could score 150 runs. For whatever reason, historically, Minnesota team and Philadelphia-Miami series are where I've made literally my most money in baseball. I don't know what it is. I know that for a while I was catching on to bad bullpens and things like that. But it is something where you're gonna see the major chalk on the Philadelphia side. And I don't mind taking bats against Ranger Suarez. I don't think I want to stack it up, but Jake Berger, I certainly like as a home run option today. Xavier Edwards, I certainly don't mind getting to. Jonah Bride, cheap option at first or third, and Derek Hill. All of those guys are interesting. I don't think I want to fully stack it, but I like Miami maybe as my complimentary stack today. All right, moving over to Atlanta, Lopez and Gomber. So we're just going to have insane chalk on Lopez. And it makes sense, right? He's got the highest strikeout expected, number on the slate. I need to come up with a better term than that because this is not the K prop. This is the expected strikeouts after running 5,000 simulations of this game. Again, small slates I like to get different. I don't know that I'm using Gomber, but I certainly am not going to be playing a huge. Well, they're a little bit lower owned than I thought. I wouldn't mind a little bit of Braves. I am not playing a 5-man stack that chalky on this size slate, but I certainly. I think I like Philadelphia better than the Braves, but I like Philadelphia better than the Braves. And if you can fade Lopez, I don't think it's that crazy that he could have a bad game. The problem is the pricing for Colorado doesn't quite make it tempting enough to where we want to pull that trigger. So anyway, I'm going to move on because I feel like I want to be underweight Atlanta, underweight Lopez. But I don't feel like I don't feel like I want to ignore them either. I'm not going to cross them out. All right, Bradford and I can never pronounce his name. Whatever. Okay, so I actually think at this price you could play him. We all saw the weak Texas lineup go nuts yesterday. Well, let's see what we get today. I don't mind going back to that weak Texas lineup. I also don't mind a little bit of the Kakanevich. Again, it's a tough one for me. And it sounds dirty on top of it. And then you've got Bradford, who I like a lot as a pitcher, but taking a chance or two on like a Zach Neto or an Ohapi. I don't think I'd be fully stacking. At least I wouldn't be fully stacking the Atlanta or Philadelphia. You could talk me into stacking Texas for sure as a 5-man. And then a game I kind of like a little bit, actually. I would like to stack San Diego tonight. That's what I would like to do. It's an earlier game there, 85 degrees. We have a huge heat wave. Now, there is 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from the left field, so maybe you pick the lefties a little bit more. But I like the low-owned San Diego quite a bit here. And I think Martin Perez is firmly in play, which sounds bizarre to say out loud, but that's where I'm at. So I like the San Diego if I was going to pick a full stack. I like the mini of I'm okay with getting to pieces of Miami. I'm okay with again, I like Atlanta and Philadelphia just fine. I just don't want to play the mega chalk. I just would keep them as my complimentary stacks. And I will take a giant gamble and play this Adam Aller thinking that, hey, maybe he's figured something out, maybe not. But Philly just occasionally just has these horrible performances. Hey, so do my Dodgers, apparently. And then I think the other team I could talk myself into five-man stacking would be Pittsburgh. So look, it's a small slate. We'll be live at 6 Eastern for this. We'll be live at 6:30 Eastern for NFL for our first showdown look. I'm pretty pumped about this. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm really excited about Sunday. And guys, I want to remind everybody, we have great promos going on right now. It's 24% off the first month using NFL 24. We're already cheaper than other sites. Using our code, we're actually selling, all of SaberSim alone is actually, we're selling it for actually cheaper than SaberSim in some cases. So I hope you guys would come and take a look at it. We also have Sheets projections, which have been unbelievable all year. Goldie's projections, all my content, I show all of my early builds, everything I'm doing, my final exposures of every slate. We have a great Discord as a part of it. Roddy's got his playbook every day for baseball, and every week for football. And Brandon Cruz for NASCAR. I just think it's a really, really cool package. I hope you guys take a look at it. Anyway, that's all I got for it right now. Good luck to everybody today. I hope you guys crush it. And I will be there at 6 Eastern with Sheets and ready to get the NFL season off on the right foot, ready to end the MLB season strong. A lot of fun at TrueDFS.